I've worked in sustainability for over 7 years now, and to be honest with you, it did not satisfy the urge inside me to heal the world. That made me curious to find what would. Hi, I'm Amira Adil, and I like to explore the intersection of capitalism, colonialism, and patriarchy, but only to ask the question, what does our best future look like? So yes, I was not vibing with sustainability, but while I was doing some research last year, I found this chart. But honestly, this version of it is so much easier to understand. This is the trajectory of ecological design by Bill Reed, originally published in 2007. This is the chart that shifted my belief system in the context of my career in sustainability. The sustainability strategies I'd made, the sustainable development goals, the sustainable development agenda of 2030, nothing felt good enough because all of that was always a stepping stone. This chart showed the ending of my story. So let's first look at the left half of this chart. Conventional, green, and sustainable, these are the three terms that I have been familiar with since 2015. Conventional practices, as in business as usual practices, are usually extractive. They follow a linear process route of taking resources from the earth, consuming them, and putting waste back into the earth. It's unsustainable, horrific, all of that pizzazz. Now, green is what businesses try to do to be the good guys. You have carbon credits, electric vehicles, sustainable fashion, yada yada. The baseline concept is still the extraction and consumption of resources. Perhaps slightly different or fewer resources, but the same concept nonetheless. Greenwashing, if you please. For both these kinds of design, you need a lot of energy. Resources aren't efficiently used most of the time. And both of these designs are degenerative in nature. Then we get to the bare minimum, sustainability, where you're doing what it takes to maintain the current state of affairs. Now, that current state of affairs may have been feasible to maintain a few centuries ago, but at our current rate of degeneration, with 53 billion tons of greenhouse gases being pumped out into the atmosphere every year, with 73% of wildlife populations gone in the last 50 years alone, with genocides being instigated and planetary boundaries being breached, maintenance just isn't enough. It's not even acceptable. Bill Reed himself says in his 2007 paper, sustainability as currently practiced in the built environment is primarily an exercise in efficiency. In other words, the use of environmental rating systems and other mechanisms allows a reduction in the damage caused by excessive resource use. However, instead of doing less damage to the environment, it is necessary to learn how one can participate with the environment by using the health of ecological systems as a basis for design. So that leads us to the second part of this chart, which I call hope. What comes after sustainability is restoration. And I think we should look at the original 2007 chart for this one. Restoration is about using design to restore the capability of local natural systems, while reconciliation is about thinking about humans as a part of nature itself. And I just want to take a minute to talk about how strange it is for a product of nature to see itself as a separate entity and worse, see itself as above the thing that birthed it. Finally, we come to regeneration. So in restoration, we talk about reforestation, coral reef restoration, wetland rehabilitation, or degraded soil rehabilitation. And in regeneration, we talk about something much bigger. Regeneration is not about fixing anymore. It's about co-creating. It's about working with and building with nature. It's about using design that supports life instead of sterilizing it. And speaking of sterilization, have you ever noticed how colonial or even post-colonial modernity sometimes visually translates to city spaces looking like this or this, but something like this might be considered primitive? These two examples are from Pakistan, one from Punjab and one from Sindh. Both these houses were constructed with straw, mud, and gobar, which is dried cow dung. The mud keeps the houses cool in the summer and cozy in the winter, and the cow dung actually acts as a natural insect repellent. They're not exactly considered modern design by any standards, but perhaps modern is not always good. Perhaps to move towards regeneration, we need to look behind us, to the past, and seek examples of coexistence from indigenous peoples who were living in nature as part of it. Regeneration asks us to be creative. It asks us to reimagine the very structures and systems that exist around us. What do we truly need to survive and thrive as a species? In 2024, a study by Dr. Jason Hickel found that in order to provide decent living standards to all 8.5 billion people on Earth, we only need 30% of the current global resource and energy consumption. That leaves a massive 70% excess that an alarming segment of the population does not even have access to right now. So if we need regenerative ideas to get equitable and efficient resource distribution, let's discuss what regeneration actually looks like in practice. An example that you might already be familiar with is regenerative agriculture, which is not just about restoring the soil to its previous capacity, but also about building soil carbon, biodiversity, water holding capacity beyond what existed before, which makes the land more productive over time. Regenerative agriculture reverses environmental degradation. It sequesters atmospheric carbon, it improves soil quality, it reduces reliance on chemical inputs, and it enhances the long-term profitability and food security for farmers. Another example that you may have heard of is indigenous land stewardship, where people build with the self-organizing logic of a place by using traditional indigenous ecological knowledge. A classic example of this is how Native Americans use controlled fires. This is to manage ecosystems, foster biodiversity, and reduce the risk of catastrophic wildfires by clearing underbrush. Their low-intensity fires even promotes the growth of some of the plants that they need the most for food and medicine. It also improved their hunting visibility, it cleared travel routes, and also recycled nutrients back into the soil. I hope this explains regeneration, at least in the context of sustainability, but I would love to hear more about more about the knowledge that you have, any comments that you'd like to share, any questions that you have, anything for me to explore in the future. And thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.